Now for more analysis on this, we're joined by Jason Corcoran, a freelance journalist and Russia analyst, joining us from Ireland. So thanks for being with us. Jason, look, just to recap it a bit, the Kremlin clearly trying to project an image of back to normal, sort of nothing happened here. You know, how's that being perceived, though? I mean, Putin saying 1 minute that Wagner will pay a heavy price, it was a stab in the back, to telling them that everything's okay, that you're pardoned, you're free to go home. I mean, is this the new way things work in Putin's Russia?
I think Putin's Russia is now gripped by paranoia. Putin himself doesn't know who was working with Prigozhin and who was openly aware of his plans. For instance, Viktor Solotov, the current head of the National Guard, said yesterday that Russia had known of Prigozhin's plans for several days, yet decided not to do anything about them. And there's also been a suggestion that General Surovikin, who is known to be a close ally of Prigozhin, was also a co-conspirator, even though he came out and made a video, admittedly with an automatic machine gun in his hands, claiming that he knew nothing about those plans and calling on Prigozhin to stop his advance on Moscow.
I mean, some of these U.S. intel reports also saying, yes, these generals knew. I mean, they did nothing. Are we expecting heads to roll, especially maybe a clean out of the house of the defense ministry there?
It's not Putin's style to roll heads. Purges tend to happen very quietly and many sort of months after the event, but he will look extremely weak if he doesn't move against certain people. And he will look extremely weak if he moves against Shoigu or Gerasimov, who is the chief of staff of the Russian army, because these are two of the very demands that Prigozhin was making for months in his rants, expletive-laden rants on Telegram.
What do we expect to be the future of the Wagner Group or Prigozhin? Is this the end, as we know it, of that as a unit?
I think, David, it is the end of Wagner as we know it. I think we're already hearing reports in Syria of the Russian forces disarming some Wagner troops. And Wagner now has the option of leaving Russia, going to exile with Prigozhin in Belarus, joining the regular army, or disbanding. So I think as a commercial unit, it is very much associated with Prigozhin, and I think it's very unlikely to continue in its current form.
Now, Prigozhin, ostensibly in exile in Belarus, which is arguably a vassal state of Russia at this point. Where's his safety net? Are we expecting some poisoned tea or some fall from a window, and a lot of talk around those kind of things? What happens to Prigozhin?
Yeah, well, Prigozhin, we haven't had a visual on Prigozhin in Minsk. We're just relying on the word of Alexander Lukashenko, who, as you said, he represents a vassal state of Russia. There have been reports that that Prigozhin has checked into the Green City Hotel in Minsk. This hotel, I tried to log on to Booking.com this morning, which gives it a very decent 8.7 rating. There are no rooms available, surprisingly. It does have 25 stories, and it's not known whether those windows open from the inside. So I think Prigozhin's health is something we have to monitor very careful on whether he decides to stay in Minsk, if it's safe for him, because you remember Belarus is the last pariah dictatorship in Europe, and their security services are called the KGB. They never rebranded, unlike in Russia.
Look, Lukashenko, interesting enough that he's inserting himself into this. We're left to wonder what he's trying to leverage, if this is further domestic repression, but perhaps more pressingly here, what happens for the war in Ukraine? What are the implications for where this conflict goes, the trajectory now?
Yeah, I think when you look at the critics of this war from internally within Russia, the so-called ultra-nationalists, they are now openly critical. If they haven't been before, they are now scathing about Russia's military capability and the fact that this putsch got so close to Moscow, to the Kremlin, only 200 kilometers away. So this challenge to Putin's authority may encourage others, and it undermines Putin's idea of his power vertical and his invincibility, something which he has sold to the Russian public over 23 years, and ending a sense of that Russia was a failed state, during the 90s and bringing some sense of unity and control to the country.
Look, we have to, the West, let's put it that way generally, led by the United States, we can, say at this point, we're so silent on Saturday as this was going down. I think really just sitting back, biting their nails, waiting to see what would happen, didn't want to make Prigozhin seem like he was their guy. What are the implications now for the sort of Western alliance that's been aligned against Russia? Where do they take this?
Hi.
Yes, if you're back with us. I don't know if you heard my last question or not, but for the implications for the West, which are so antagonistic to Russia these days, where do they take this?
I think that the West will be encouraged, and the U.S. intelligence claims that people like General Surovikin were aware of the coup d'état in advance. I think it's trying to mess with Putin's head and undermine further the Kremlin. So, and I think Zelensky, the leader of Ukraine, will be very much heartened, and they have been making incremental gains in the Donetsk region since this rebellion started. So. It will just, I think, encourage them that they can make further inroads into eastern Ukraine, and even maybe think about seriously taking Crimea back, the Black Sea Peninsula, from Russia.
We'll certainly stay tuned there. I think a lot of these, questions will have at least more answers I don't know about answers, but more to chew on in the coming weeks here. But for now, Jason Corcoran, thanks for being with us. A lot to speculate about in Russia.